When a woman leaves you and then tries to come back, most men react emotionally instead of intelligently. They either open the door too fast because they still want her, or they slam it shut to prove they're no longer weak. Both moves are driven by ego, not power. And whether you realize it or not, how you respond in this moment sets the tone for the rest of your life, not just your relationship with her. You need to understand something most men never grasp. When a woman returns after walking away, she's not just coming back to you. She's coming back to who you are now. And that version of you, upgraded or unchanged, will determine what happens next. So before we go any further, let me say this directly as a woman talking to you with zero fluff. Do not assume her return is a compliment. It might be curiosity, convenience, loneliness, regret, or a test. You need to listen to what I'm about to tell you with an open mind, because this could easily be the difference between reclaiming your power or repeating the cycle that broke you the first time. And while we're here, if you're the kind of man who actually wants to grow, to understand women without losing your self-respect, and to make decisions from strength instead of fear, then make sure you subscribe and stick with me to the end. You're going to hear things most men never do, and some of it might sting at first. That's the point. Growth is not supposed to feel comfortable. Now, let's get into it, and don't just hear me, absorb this like your future depends on it. 1. Your value is not a revolving door. If she left you once, you need to start with a brutally honest question. Why was she comfortable walking away from you in the first place? Because whether you realize it or not, that answer determines everything about how you handle her comeback. Most men assume her return means they won something, that she finally realized his worth, that she regretted losing him, that she woke up. But what if her return has nothing to do with your value increasing and everything to do with her options decreasing? What if she didn't choose you again? She recycled you because you were safe, available, and predictable. Here's the hard truth that takes most guys years of pain to understand. A woman will only value a man as much as he values himself. And if she thinks she can leave you without consequence and come back without resistance, you've trained her to believe your time, your heart, and your presence operate on her schedule, not your standards. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." Think about that. If your ambition is only to have her back, you've already lowered your value, because you're defining your worth through the woman who abandoned you. Let me ask you something that should mess with your head a little. If she never came back, would you still believe you're a valuable man? Or did her return just rescue your ego from the rejection you never healed from? This is where men usually get it wrong. They think boundaries are about punishment. They think withholding access is about revenge. Boundaries are about identity. Your standards communicate who you are, not what you're trying to make her feel. Seneca wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. If you don't know who you are without her, you'll never handle her comeback from strength." Here's what you need to understand. Your value is not something she should be allowed to leave and sample again when it suits her. You are not an emotional Airbnb. You are a man whose life should be moving forward with or without her presence. And when she tries to re-enter your life, you shouldn't be flattered. You should be evaluating. Ask yourself, has she earned the right to access the man you've become? Or are you so desperate for her return that you'll hand over the same version of yourself she already walked away from? Most men don't want to ask this question because they're afraid of the answer. But if you skip this step, you guarantee one thing: nothing will change. And if nothing has changed, then her return is not a second chance. It's a sequel to the same story that broke you. 2. Don't reward her absence with immediate access. If she left you and now she wants to come back, understand this clearly. The way you respond sets the tone for everything that follows. You can't teach someone how to treat you after you've already handed them easy access. That's not strength. That's submission disguised as hope. You may feel the urge to let her back in quickly because you don't want to lose the opportunity. But here's what you're not considering. If you rush to let her in, you've already lost. Not her. Your leverage, your ground, your power. A woman respects what she must re-earn. She takes for granted what never left. Epictetus said, "You become what you give your attention to." If your attention goes straight back to her, the moment she reappears, you're not acting from power. You're reacting from fear. Fear of losing her again. Fear of being alone. Fear of missing your chance. But what kind of man negotiates with fear instead of standards? Let's flip the script and ask a question most men avoid because the answer reveals too much about themselves. If she knew you would not hesitate to walk away again if necessary, would she still come back the same way she did now? Or is she only comfortable returning because she thinks your door is always open? This is where masculinity is either reclaimed or compromised. You don't punish her for leaving. You simply make sure her absence had consequences. You don't need to yell, block, argue, or demand explanations. You need to create space. Space forces accountability. Space exposes motive. Space reveals whether she's coming back out of interest or out of desperation. And don't misunderstand, this isn't about games. Women know when a man is faking indifference versus exercising discipline. When you slow down the access, you're not making her chase you. You're making her confront the weight of her decision. Think about the men throughout history who were strongest in relationships, not the ones who begged, convinced, or performed, but the ones who were rooted in who they were. The kings, the thinkers, the warriors, the leaders. They didn't negotiate their worth because someone changed their mind. They didn't view love as a favor someone was doing for them. Here's something most men never consider. If she could leave you once, she already proved she's capable of prioritizing her feelings over your bond. So why would you prioritize her comfort over your growth as she returns? Instead of opening the door immediately, do this. Evaluate, observe, and re-establish your pace. If she respects it, you've regained the frame. If she gets irritated, defensive, or demanding, you've just seen her real reason for coming back. And it's not love, it's leverage. Now, here's a question that should unsettle you in the best way possible. Are you more afraid of losing her again? Or of losing yourself again? The man who fears losing her will rush. The man who fears losing himself will pause. And that pause is everything. 3. Make her explain, don't you assume. When she comes back, the biggest mistake you can make is filling in the blanks for her. Most men do this without even realizing it. They create their own narrative to justify her return. She missed me. She realized her mistake. She finally understands my value. She changed. But assumptions are emotional shortcuts. And shortcuts always cost you later. If she left, then somewhere in her mind, she justified that decision. Whether it was emotional, impulsive, logical, or selfish. She told herself a story that made walking away make sense at the time. And now she's back, which means there's a new story in her head. You don't know what it is. You don't know what's driving her. You don't know if it's about you or about something else entirely. So ask yourself, are you letting her walk back into your life with a mystery motive? Here's where men lose their power. They're too afraid to ask the real questions because they don't want answers that challenge their hope. But a man who refuses to ask is a man volunteering for chaos. You don't need to interrogate her. You don't need to corner her, and you don't need to play detective. What you need is clarity. And clarity only comes when you let her speak for herself instead of filling in the details for her. Seneca said, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. The same applies here. If you don't lead this conversation with intention, you'll get dragged by her version of events. And once her version sets the tone, you lose the frame. So how do you handle it? You give her space to explain, not because you're seeking reassurance, but because you're filtering her mindset. You're not asking, "Why did you leave me?" That sounds like you're emotionally wounded and still living in the past. Instead, you let her bring the truth to you by staying grounded in the present. For example, instead of chasing explanations, let her reveal them. You control the pace. You let silence work for you. You allow room for her to express what she expects, what changed, and why she thinks re-entering your life is even an option. That tells you everything you need to know. And here's a question you probably haven't asked yourself yet, but should. If she wasn't required to examine her decision to leave, why would she respect the decision to return? Women test without announcing their testing. Sometimes her return is not about reconciling. It's about checking if you're still available. It's about ego. It's about security. It's about options. If you assume instead of observe, you'll submit instead of evaluate. Remember this. A woman will always reveal her intentions if you stop trying to script them. Your strength isn't in reacting. It's in listening without rushing. It's in staying rooted while she tries to re-enter your world. And if she can't give you a clear, accountable, self-aware explanation without blame-shifting, minimizing, or pretending nothing happened, then she's not coming back for the right reasons. She's coming back for comfort. So ask yourself something most men never do. Are you welcoming her voice or protecting your fantasy? 4. Don't resume the old relationship. Build new terms. If she walked away from the relationship once, then that relationship is dead. Let me say that again, because this is where men lose themselves without noticing. The relationship she left is gone. It doesn't get revived. It doesn't get resumed. It doesn't get patched. It gets buried. And if something new is going to exist, it must be built, with different terms, different standards, and a different man than before. The problem is most guys don't think like builders. They think like restorers. They want to go back to how things used to be, because they're chasing emotional familiarity, not actual progress. But familiarity is what blinded you the first time. Familiarity is what made you predictable, soft, reactive, or accommodating enough for her to walk away in the first place. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will bubble up if you will ever dig." If you don't look within and examine who you were, what you allowed, and what you ignored, you're stepping right back into the same story with a new timestamp. Here's where most men go wrong. They negotiate for inclusion rather than establish requirements. They think keeping her is the goal. But let me ask you something that cuts deeper. Why would you give someone the same access they once abandoned? You don't rebuild her comfort. You reclaim your conditions. Whatever ended the relationship before should not be something you gloss over just because she came back. Her return doesn't erase the past. It highlights it. And understand this. You don't need to announce your new terms. You embody them. She should feel the shift without you having to make a speech. The way you carry yourself, the boundaries you now hold, the patience you no longer extend, the attention you don't give away freely, that tells her everything. Men think leadership in relationships means fixing her emotions. That's not leadership. That's emotional servitude. Real leadership is establishing the structure in which both of you must operate if you're going to reconnect. If she comes back and she can't recognize that the dynamic has changed, that the old access is gone, that the old energy has died, that the old version of you no longer exists, then she's not seeing you. She's seeing a memory. The question is, Are you willing to disappoint her expectations in order to protect your evolution? Too many men try to negotiate with the past. But you don't owe comfort to the woman who left. You owe clarity to the man you've become. 5. Test her consistency before you trust her words. Any woman can come back with nice words. Words cost nothing. Apologies cost nothing. Promises cost nothing. Even tears can be counterfeit when a woman is in a vulnerable season. But consistency, that's expensive. That requires sacrifice. That exposes truth. That reveals intention. Most men don't test consistency because they don't want to risk losing her again. They think maintaining access protects the connection, but all it actually protects is her convenience. Here's a reality check. If she came back because she's lonely, rejected by someone else, or disappointed in the dating market, she'll give you strong emotion for a moment, not sustained effort over time. That's why you do not rush to commit, claim, or invest just because she says the right things. You observe. You pace. You let her actions audition for the role she's asking for. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Apply that here. Be willing to look like you're holding back or not excited enough, rather than play the fool who jumps back into emotional dependency. The man who needs reassurance rushes. The man who knows his value waits. And here's a question that should hit you straight in the gut. If she had to prove herself without relying on your history, could she? Don't assume she's changed just because she came back. Some women don't return because they evolved. They return because they're stuck. If she truly changed, you'll see it in her discipline, in her accountability, in her patterns, not just her apologies. Pay attention to timing. Pay attention to tone. Pay attention to the energy she carries when you don't immediately give her what she wants. Pay attention to her reaction when you don't prioritize her above yourself. Those moments reveal what her return is really about. Most men only test a woman after they've already committed. That's backwards. You don't test after she settles in. You test before she gets comfortable. That doesn't mean you play games or set traps. It means you pay attention without projecting your desire onto her behavior. Desire distorts reality. Observation exposes it. And never forget this. Trust is not something you hand back. It's something she has to earn like it never existed before. Now sit with this question, and don't answer it too fast. Is she coming back to build with you or to borrow your stability? A woman's words can disguise her motives, but her consistency can't hide them. 6. Do not apologize for evolving without her. When she returns, one of the most subtle mistakes you can make is shrinking yourself to make her feel comfortable. A lot of men don't realize they do this. They soften their tone. They downplay how much they've changed. They move slower, speak lighter, or hide their new standards just to avoid coming across as cold, different, or distant. But here's the truth. If you have to dim your growth to re-accept someone who left, you're not reconnecting, you're regressing. When she left, she forfeited the right to witness the parts of you that were born in her absence. Maybe you became more disciplined. Maybe you built your body, your finances, your circle, your purpose. Maybe you developed a level of focus she never saw in you before. That evolution is not something you apologize for. It's something you embody. Let me ask you something you may never have asked yourself. Are you afraid she won't like the man you've become because the old version of you was easier to access and control? Marcus Aurelius said, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Translate that to this situation. The consequences of self-betrayal are far greater than whatever discomfort she feels when she realizes you're no longer the man she left. A woman who truly respects you will not be offended by your evolution. She'll be confronted by it. She'll have to decide whether she can rise to meet it or fall back into her old mindset. Your responsibility isn't to cushion that realization. It's to protect your transformation. If you step back into old patterns just to make her feel like nothing has changed, you're not getting her back. You're losing yourself again. That's not love. That's fear in disguise. Do not mask your growth. Do not downplay your boundaries. Do not silence your standards. Do not act like the breakup didn't alter the foundation of who you are. Your evolution is not a phase. It's your new identity. And if she wants access to that identity, she has to meet it, not manipulate it. So here's the question that should flip your perspective. Is she returning to reconnect with the man you are now, or to reunite with the man you used to be? 7. Let her feel the weight of earning you. Women understand the concept of earning better than most men do. They just won't tell you that directly. When a woman values a man, she proves it through effort, consistency, attention, and alignment. When she doesn't, she expects access without qualification. The problem? Most men never require anything from a woman who comes back. They just feel relieved she returned. That's not strength. That's scarcity. You don't owe her immediate forgiveness, trust, or emotional investment just because she had a change of heart. You don't owe her the same position she had before. You don't owe her comfort. If she wants a place in your life again, she should feel the difference between being chosen and being allowed. Seneca said, "It is a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness." If a woman can walk casually back into your life without that road costing her anything, then you're not operating from greatness. You're operating from fear of letting go. This does not mean you become cold, cruel, or vindictive. It means you become deliberate. You become observant. You become unshakable in your standards. You don't chase reassurance. You watch her consistency. You don't seek guarantees. You examine alignment. You don't re-explain your worth. You let your presence speak for you. And here's something you may not want to admit. If she came back and knew you'd make her earn you slowly, would she still have reached out? That one question alone tells you everything. Women will always value what they have to qualify for. They lose interest quickly in what is immediately accessible. If your time, energy, affection, and presence are now something she must rise to, not fall into, she'll either elevate or exit. Either outcome is a win for you. Never forget this. The man she left should not be the man she returns to. If she wants access to your life again, she should feel the difference between history and eligibility. If she walks away and then returns, it's not a romantic moment. It's a defining one. Your reaction decides whether you reclaim your power or recycle your pain. Never rush to give back what she abandoned. Never apologize for becoming someone she can no longer manipulate. And never let her skip the cost of re-entry. If she wants access to you now, make sure she earns it from the man you are, not the man she left behind. Subscribe, stay sharp, and come back ready, because the men who listen are the men who stop losing themselves.